Bros, welcome back to another Pokemon Sleep video. It's Bro Vinny here. Today we are talking about healers and whether they're actually good to put in your team. One of the most common questions we ask is if you have a full team of berry specialists or the required ingredient farmers, should you substitute one of them for a healer? And when I say healer, I mean these Pokemon. So Igglybuffs, Jigglypuffs, Slowbro, Slowpoke, or Sylveon. They all have a skill that restores energy. And I don't mean the ones where they restore their own energy, I mean the ones that restore someone else's energy, so some team member, some sort of support. Now the reason why we ask this is because these units here, these Pokemon here, they can provide the rest of your team with energy so that it keeps them at a higher farming efficiency for the rest of the day. As you might know from one of my other videos, if your Pokemon is at 100% energy, it will farm 2.5 times faster than it would at 0% energy. So, keeping the rest of your team at a high energy must be a good thing, right? Well, the comparison we're going to make is it better than substituting something else that might be really good? Now, let me just start by saying I really don't like Slowbro's ability where it randomly restores a Pokemon on your team and their energy restored isn't very high. I much prefer the one that is energy for everyone. So for example, in the Igglybuff line or Sylveon, that gives a much more predictable outcome. And I gotta say that when Slowbro uses this skill, quite often, so 20% of the time, it heals itself, which is kind of pointless to bring on your team. The real benefit of using a Slowbro, I'd say, is for Slowpoke tails, which are really rare. Not many other Pokemon has this. Ditto is the only other Pokemon that can potentially drop Slowpoke tails. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't use Slowbro for its main skill. So, with Slowbro out of the way, for the rest of this video, we are talking about any Pokemon that have this main skill, Energy for Everyone S. And the two Pokemon that have this, that are most commonly talked about, are Sylveon and Wigglytuff. Now, in the rest of this video, I'll be giving two types of examples. One is completely hypothetical situations, just to simplify the understanding so that you know how good a healer would be on the team. And a real life example, my current team here, whether it would be better for me to substitute one of these guys for a Jigglypuff. I haven't evolved to Wigglytuff yet. It's almost ready to evolve, but I haven't, so I'm going to use Jigglypuff as the example. And I should mention at this point that unlike my other videos where I usually give you the answer first, in this situation, I'm going to have to explain everything first before I give you the answer. And that is because the answer is situational. So, today I made a Discord post trying to answer this exact question. There are several parameters that you need to understand before I start talking about whether a healer is better or not. Because most people's situations will be a bit different in terms of how many good Pokemon you've got, how many berry specialists you've got, which area you're doing right now. We need to control some parameters first. So let's do a hypothetical situation. First of all, I've decided to use the Reynolds calculator. I'll put a link to that calculator in the description below. By and large, the calculator is accurate, but there are several things we still don't know for sure, and the calculator also doesn't know for sure. For example, how often does main skill actually trigger? So you can actually affect that in the calculator itself. In our example, we're going to take a conservative measure and say it triggers about twice a day. I'm going to use a team of only level 25 Pokemon in this hypothetical situation. No natures or sub-skills are considered, so everything is just neutral. You should understand that healing is best done in the morning. That allows the Pokemon to farm at a higher rate for longer. If, for example, you trigger your healing at the end of the day just before you sleep, it does absolutely nothing because during sleep, your Pokemon is supposed to be farming at 2.5 times efficiency. as long as you wake up with 100% sleep. So the earlier your healing triggers, usually the better. But in these situations, this hypothetical situation and this calculator, we can't control for that when it actually triggers. And just for simplicity, we're going to use 0% area bonus. And in our hypothetical situation, we're not going to use any ingredient specialists, and that's largely because these calculators, they don't know your level bonus of your dish, and they also don't know your pot size, how many extra ingredients you're going to use, your recipe bonus, which recipe you're going for. They don't account for any of that. The calculator will use your ingredients to calculate using only its base strength. So while berry specialists also drop ingredients, although not very often, those will be counted towards base strength and not as a recipe. But we wouldn't be too far off anyway, since we're not running any ingredient specialists. Right, so let's take our very first example for comparison. So this is scenario 1, and I'm using the Reynolds calculator. And we're using Greengrass Isle as our island. And that's because we can change our favorite berry accordingly to what we need to test. And I've started with electric and ground favorite berries. And we're going to see how the healer fares against the berry specialists. So what I've done is I've inputted 4 Raichus, being one of the best and fastest farmers, especially if it's a favorite berry week, and 1 non-favorite berry Wigglytuff. This Wigglytuff is assumed to have a level 4 main skill, healing at 11 energy every trigger, so triggering twice a day. And what we're looking at is the bottom number here. I have rewritten this in the post in a moment, you'll see. But I just wanted you guys to know where I'm getting these numbers from. So the total weekly strength that I get from this team, including all the berries and ingredients, and also if we have a healer that is not a favorite berry. So about 444,000, and I've written that here just so you can see all the numbers together in total strength obtained. Then what I've done is I've replaced this Wiggly with a Cubone, which is also a favorite berry type for this week, but it's much slower than Raichu. Cubones it's not even fully evolved and it's generally a bit slower. And we took away the healing ability of this team, and the total strength obtained was 430,000. So in this situation, if your 5th member is a relatively weak member, like let's say a slow Pokemon, for example, Cubone, slow compared to Raichu, I'm not saying Cubone is slow, just slow compared to Raichu, the Wigglytuff benefits of healing to the rest of your team, which is strong, is better than having a 5th relatively slow or weak berry specialist, even if it is favorite berry. However, in the situation where if you hypothetically had 5 Raichus that were all favorite berries, they're all berry specialists, and you can see these are all 5 Raichus, you get a total strength of 480,000. As you can see at the bottom here. So in this situation, if you have 5 berry specialists, it actually is better than having a Wigglytuff on the team, which was only at 444k. So you can already see that it's situational to how good of a team you have. If you've got 4 excellent Pokemon for the week, and the 5th one is a bit more questionable, then having a really good healer on your team is going to be beneficial. But if your 5th slot can be taken by an excellent berry farmer, berry specialist farmer, especially if it had like skills like berry finding S, you're not going to need that healer. Now, just to be fair, I also did an example where Wigglytuff also gets favorite berries. So if Pekka Berry, which is fairy type berries, is also a favorite berry for the week, the total strength for the week comes up to about 463k, which approaches, it gets close to having 5 Raichus on the team. Now at this point you might go, hang on, Raichus are such a fast Pokemon, you'd think that having a healer would definitely boost and amplify how fast it is. So what if we use a more average, or what if we go to the other end of the spectrum and use the slowest berry farmer? Would it be better to have a healer on the team, or is it still better to run 5 berry specialists? I've decided to go with Sphere here because it is a favorite berry and berry specialist for Snowdrop Tundra, and I ran a team simulation of 5 Spheres to see the final total strength for the week without a healer. So the final total strength is 227,000 if you run 5 Spheres. Whereas if we run 4 Spheres and a Wigglytuff, doing similar healing as before, 11 energy, and by the way, Wigglytuffs can go up to level 6, which would provide even more energy per trigger, but we're just using some sort of average here, so level 4, 11 energy restoration. The output of total strength is 225k, which is an insignificant difference in my opinion between 5 Spheres or 4 Spheres and 1 healer. So as you can see, if you're running a team of very fast berry specialists, very good berry specialists, you're going to see a greater effect from that healer. But it doesn't replace a 5th berry specialist that is also very good. If the 4 or 5 berry specialists that you have are not very good to start with, it wouldn't make much difference anyway, even if you ran a healer on the team. Alright, so all the hypothetical situations aside, why don't we look at a real life example? I'm going to use my own team as an example to see how the healer will compare to my current team. Now, earlier I said I'm not going to use ingredient specialists in the examples, but that only applied to the hypothetical situations. In this situation, I am going to use ingredient specialists. In other words, these specialists, these Pokemon will be undervalued by the calculator because we don't see level bonus from the dishes and recipe bonuses from the dishes. I've also inputted the sub skills and also the natures of my Pokemon exactly into this calculator. Particularly, you should note that this Ghastly has a berry finding S, and this Feraligatr also has a berry finding S. The total strength acquired at the end of the week is 278,000. So what I've decided to do is I'm decided to replace in the calculator my Golem. So basically these two are not favorite berries and the others are favorite berries for the week. But between Feraligatr and Golem, Golem is the weaker one because this Gator has a berry finding S. It's a very powerful sub-skill and it's pretty fast and it's high level as well. So up here it's high level as well. Whereas this Golem is lower level, slightly slower, and doesn't have berry finding S. So I've decided to remove the weakest link in my group to replace it with a healer to see if it would do any better. Now, I will let you know that the reason I've chosen Golem in my team is to make sure that I can get the correct dishes made to get that level bonus and that recipe bonus. So it's going to be a bit of a sacrifice if I was to do this for real. But if you have a look at the actual number output, so here I am using my Jigglypuff. So with a level 3 main skill that restores 9 energy, so I've inputted these into the calculator, and it gave me a 295,000 final total strength. So in other words, this Jigglypuff is actually better for my team than running the Golem that is relatively low level and isn't favorite berry for the week. The only issue is this calculator did not account for level bonus and dish recipe bonus. So now the question is, do I sacrifice being able to make certain dishes for that 20,000 increase in the total strength? In fact, if we did account for the recipe bonuses and the level bonus, it might actually end up become more than the difference made by Jigglypuff. And one more thing that this calculator doesn't do, and that's why you need to understand how to use these calculators before you go jumping in, is that it also doesn't account for the main skills of my Pokemon. Healing is, so the energy for everyone healing is the only exception to this. So this calculator does not account for any other main skill triggers. So it undervalues all these other main skills when it does the calculations. So we have to look at how many times this golem could be triggering this charge strength S for the week as well. So for that measly 20k difference, and it's only based on the simulation, which ignores main skills, ignores a lot of other things like dish bonuses, I thought it was best to just keep Golem on the team. At least I get to level up my dish for another week in order to get even more bonuses in the future. So in other words, if you want to know if your healer is going to be useful in your team, you actually need to go create a team in the Reynolds calculator. And again, I'll leave the link in the description below. And then compare your current team versus the team with your weakest team member replaced with a healer to see which one actually generates better strength. And is it even that big of a difference that you would sacrifice a main skill from your weakest member, or you would sacrifice being able to cook the correct dishes? That you'll have to decide for yourself once you see the numbers. Now, I'm not going to go through how to use the calculator in this video, but I will warn you guys, there are a lot of ads on this calculator, and it covers up half my screen every time I use it. It is a bit annoying. You can pay to have it removed, and you should understand the things that it doesn't calculate when you use the calculator. Things like main skill triggers. So, in summary, I would say, look, a healer can generally be good if you don't have a really good fifth team member. But you probably shouldn't go replacing a really good fifth team member with a healer if it's actually doing a lot of berry farming and it's already farming a lot of necessary ingredients for you. So if this video helps you understand how healers work and whether you should have it on your team, please leave a like and subscribe for more Pokemon Sleep content. And if you need any help using this calculator, come to our Discord. I'll leave a link to our Discord in the description below and ask us there.